Hi, everybody. This is just a short video to talk to you about the peer review and how you start thinking through reading somebody else's project. So, for the Teaching with Media philosophy statement, you really want to be getting a real overview of what that person believes about teaching with media and technology for his or her own students or own professional population, whenever that is. So you want to be looking for that big overarching idea, but you don't want it to be solely about teaching or solely about technology or solely about students. It really is about that combination of teaching with media and technology for a particular group of people. So it's making all of the readings and everything that we are doing and all the talking we're doing specific to that person and to that person's beliefs. That's the philosophy part. And so that's what you want to be overall thinking about. So when you open up that person's project, their philosophy statement, or their web page, you'll want to look for that, and that's overall what you're helping them to see, because it's hard when you're just writing something to really see the forest for the trees. So your task is to help them to see where that's working and where that's not working, where their argument is clear, where it's unclear, so that they can do those revisions. Also help them if they're not following directions at all in terms of how to turn in the assignment or in having the right kinds of images, that kind of thing. Help them as well to see that. So you look at the assignment and the rubric, and you're just helping that other person to see what might still be missing, what is actually incorrect, and so on as they're doing their draft. So the first step is just going to be reading through the assignment, and then reading through what your partner has given you for the draft. And so it's getting a sense of it, getting a sense of all of it. And then in step two, you're going to be looking for actual parts of the assignment prompt. In particular, their instructional models, what the beliefs are about that, the beliefs about students. You're going to check that all the parts are there. So that's essentially just a check. Did this person include all the different things that he or she needed to do? And then you're going to look for particular parts of the argument. In this case, in number two, you're going to look at the topic sentence. The topic sentence should be one sentence, the first sentence of every paragraph. And that's the way to think about it. And that's where all topic sentences should go. Let's keep it simple for ourselves and for our readers. So it should be your overarching point in that paragraph. There should be one point per paragraph, not multiple ones. So look, especially when it comes to like views about students or views about instructional models. There tends sometimes the drafts will have a lot of ideas in one paragraph. So signal that for that person that the topic sentence that they have might be one of those ideas, but it's not encompassing a belief about all of them. And so that's really what they're working toward. So some people are still in the midst of trying to figure out their argument. They're trying to figure out what their beliefs are. So it might be a little bit more scattered than later drafts, but help them to see that it isn't clear if it's not clear, or that it is clear if it is. So that's what you're looking for here. Is there one point to be had about a belief about teaching with media? Is that expressed in a topic sentence? That is one sentence, very clearly worded. That's what you're looking for here. And you're going to list the ones that don't have it, or they have unclear ones, topic sentences or paragraphs that have more than one point, and just give them a signal for that. And just write out the beginning sentences of that paragraph here. And then you're going to look at evidence. So if a person has a clear point in their topic sentence, and they have quotations or details from the readings, then that needs to be cited, and cited correctly, or it needs to be applicable. It needs to actually apply to the point that's being there. And if you can't tell, or if it's something that's super vague, like media helps people, that's too vague to have any real meaning for any kind of point. And so just signal that for them. Like, I think this might be too general here. It's too much about students. All kids love their devices, something like that. That's not helpful to most people. Or if the evidence needs explanations, tell them there. Like, every piece of evidence needs to have at least two or three sentences after it that talk about how that evidence is proving the point that's being made in the topic sentence. So, are they just moving on and listing quotation, 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 quotation? Sometimes that happens. Or is each one explained to make that evidence really specific to his or her own philosophy. So evidence is good. It helps to bolster your argument, but it's not specific to the philosophy until you get to the explanation. And the explanations show us how it is proving the point. Because remember, the overarching point is the person's belief about whatever it is that they're talking about. So the explanation has to make the evidence concrete. It has to show us how that evidence is proving the belief. And if it's not there, let them know. Let them know that. And this is same for explanations for the images. The images are not just thrown in. First of all, the images need to be their own and not from the readings. So it needs to be something that is their own and or cited, but not clip art and not images you'd find on Google search engines or something like that. Not generic images of children with computers or something like that. It needs to be very specific to that person and to that person's beliefs. So that's the first thing to let them know, right? That would be unoriginal or not applicable. So help them to see that. I'm actually going to put here or clip art. Google search, image, etc. Let them know that. It needs to be their own. And even if they're cited, they need to be cited with a title and their person's name. If it's their own image, it needs to have the person's name and just they need to give it a title of some kind and a date and all that kind of information, just like in their references, Google references, but it'll be that person, right? And if it's somebody else's image, then it needs to have that same kind of attribution. So just let them know if that image is there, if it's not applicable, and if their image is not explained. If it's simply thrown in and it's just in the paragraph but doesn't have any sentences that explain it, then let them know that they need to be folding that image into their paragraph and into their point. We need to understand how the images are proving their points. And so if that's not there, just let them know. Let them know that. And then in step 3, that's where you're going to look at the big picture. You're going to look at the thesis statement and the subpoints. Can you tell what their overall philosophy is? Or are they talking about students and then instructional models and then something else, and you can't make sense of how the whole thing flows together? A lot of people are going to be at that point right now. So let them know that you can't make sense of it, because if you can't make sense of it, they need to make sense of it for us. And so overall, what is their point, and how can you tell that? Overall, how do they use the course readings to support their claims, and how do they use the images to support their claims at this point? And is it persuasive to you? What do you think it might need? Might it need a clearer argument? Might it need more support from the readings? Might it need more specific support from the readings? Might it need more explanations? Like, what do you think it is that might be something that could really help that project to be more persuasive to somebody else about what that person believes? And so that's kind of what we're looking at. So we're looking at the nitty-gritty things of the topic sentences, the explanations, and so forth. And then after you do that, overall, what's working, what's not working, what is still needs some development, what is unclear, can you make sense of all of this for the other person? So you really are being the other person's eyes. It's not enough to say, oh, good job. And it's like, yeah, good job. In this part, and this part, and this part, really probably would be a little bit better if it had a little bit more support or a little bit more explanation. So really help be another set of eyes for this person. And that's what we're hoping to do for this peer review.